Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. We are zooming in and focusing in on all the beautiful empowered harmonizers out there with a message and a topic and a focus of the importance of not being intimidated by others, especially those who you have felt coerced or manipulated to reflect back to them their needs, put up with their incessant monologuing, put up with their entitlement issues, and be sort of a victim or a source of supply to their angry and controlling ways. It becomes a survival strategy when you are in a relationship with someone who is difficult, who's toxic, who has that unique blend of charm and bully. And you have basically been somewhat intimidated into reflecting back to them their needs and their needs for unconditional love. As Pete Walker talks in his book, he talks about the various types of coping that traumatized people will get into. In other words, there's a lot of coping strategies that compose their life. Rather than just living their life, there's an undue or excessive amount of coping needed to be as a strategy just to offset their fear, their emotional pain, their insecurity, social anxieties, the whole gamut, the whole two bits. And so, of course, with any walk of life, there's going to be people who you feel are different or intimidating to you, who have a sense of either power or controlling. But we're talking about really getting a grip on that and not going through your life feeling intimidated by people whatsoever. Usually people are intimidated by the unknown or the uncertain, and they have this sort of fear, and then oftentimes a compliance with them because they feel less than or weaker, or they don't know how to handle it. And Pete Walker, in his book, he talks about the various coping types, and he talks about the people who kind of get into the fight mode, where they're always kind of charging forward in order to address their feeling of their narcissistic needs. And he's, these individuals, of course, as we look at the studies of those people who are narcissistic, they don't really push, people through their power or their control and be the leader or the one with all the attention because of their ego. It's because really a lack of ego, and chances are in that person's earlier years, they had suffered some sort of abandonment. So narcissism, there's many different schools of thoughts, but largely it is felt that it's a, overcompensation for what had occurred during the first primal years of their life, ages 0 to 5. And so when we talk about, different methods of coping, the fight or flight mechanism, if you've been with me for a while, you understand what that is. And, it's that hyper-adrenalized state, the fight or flight, the parasympathetic nervous system, which is on. And you'll see the narcissist, oftentimes people feel that they're on, in terms of they can't just relax. They can't just take it easy. They can't let their hair down. They can't look less than perfect. They can't have things, out of place. They can be very perfectionistic. But the problem becomes when they are this way, and then they force others or these perfectionist standards onto others, especially when it's backed by entitlement and a desire to receive unconditional love. In other words, they want you to providing the unconditional love to them without giving it in return. Oftentimes, they have, by virtue of their entitlement and their anger, to placate or pacify what they were missing earlier in their life. They get sort of a very large personality to them, which then comes off as, people say, the covert narcissist or the overt narcissist. Well, you can tell who the overt are because they just don't care about people. They lack empathy. They're very self-important and grandiose and entitled. And the covert narcissist oftentimes has a more quiet or subtle rage, but they still feel a lot of these feelings. But Pete Walker talks about those individuals who are kind of the more aggressive or fight types, and they have learned to respond to their feelings of abandonment with anger. And then basically they use contempt, a poisonous blend of narcissistic rage and disgust, to intimidate and shame others into mirroring them. And narcissist treats others as if they are an extension of themselves. But furthermore, he talks about how the entitled fight type commonly uses others as an audience for his incessant monologuing. It may treat a captured, freeze, or fawn type as a slave for this sort of dominant submission type of relationship. So what I want to just, in that little paragraph, in that piece, I want you to see if you have encountered this in your relationships, and then identify it, and then begin to see that you have a choice to not be a victim to this type of dynamic, whether it's in a spouse, whether it's in a family, whether it's in a workplace where you feel intimidated or someone is pushing their weight around, and you just have to be kind of on, as we talk about the one directional relationship with these people, where you're not permitted to express yourself in equal time, tone, energy. You can't, there's no sharing of the stage. And so oftentimes people are then intimidated, or as Pete Walker states, kind of coerced, i.e. emotionally manipulated. I mean, no one is taking you, by the arm or twisting your arm, but we're talking about where they almost are very demanding, that you are a specific such and such a way, and that you must then placate or pacify their needs, their entitlement needs for unconditional love, meaning that you, no matter how they treat you, you must love them back. You are scratching their back even though they just cheated on you. You are going to make up with them even though they just, have done this and this. Or, you found, you're getting through, you're kind of on the tip of that brainwashed, gaslighted state, and it becomes an everyday situation, and you're feeling somewhat powerlessness over this. And oftentimes, people then deal with this in a number of different ways, but I want you to understand that there's no need for you to be intimidated by these types. It's okay for you to see yourself as whole, competent, and complete, and authentic, as distinguished and distinct from these types of people. So even if these people put themselves on a pedestal, it doesn't mean that you have to have a pedestal of them in your mind. In fact, it's a very healthy thing to begin to see the equality of things and how people are all connected, and we have all different strengths and abilities and talents, and you don't have to pattern yourself after something which is not right or realistic for you. It's important to come to terms with what's realistic for you after being through these very difficult and challenging relationships that aren't realistic. If there is force, because then what ends up happening is you have to be a counterforce to their force. So they are the ones in charge. They are the ones that are dictating how you act, how you react, and then it's setting up a relationship of reactivity. And I don't want you to feel intimidated into this or coerced. That's never a healthy thing. So no matter what age you are, people will cross this bridge sooner or later, and it's best that you become enlightened to this and aware or psychoeducated as to not feel dismissed by these people who see that they have the talent or the this or the that or the charm or whatever it is that they have intimidated you with, and you know what it is because it's unique to you. But begin to see that you do not need to become submissive or fearful. It's very important for you to get out of that defensive mode in relationships where you don't have to constantly defend and justify yourself, or come with a broken heart or a broken spleen or whatever it is that you feel is broken about you. Begin to see yourself as whole, and begin to see that you do not have to fix people. Oftentimes if you've been with these types, that's part of the thrill for you. Oh, I feel necessary. Begin to say, well, what would happen if I were in a relationship and I didn't have to fix this person? What would we do? What would that feel like? A lot of people want to fall off their chair and go, oh my God, that's all that I do. That's all I'm good for. Well, that's a knee-jerk response. So maybe it's okay to see that you do have more to give and basically also more to receive in relationships. So consider that to be an option, and to be able to receive without fear, that you can still be safe, centered, and present in those type of relationships, and you don't have to, freak out or lose it or dissociate or alienate yourself. When you think about this, begin to gradually entertain the idea, and little by little, you'll find yourself moving in the direction of the positive change that you desire. It's your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.